Welcome to the greenhouse, Future Food System. We are here in our 10th live stream, and today we're talking about aquaponics systems, and I think it's really important. This shows we've got 26 days, 26 years, 311 days, 4 hours and 42 minutes left till the end of seafood as we know it. Overfishing is now fishing is happening at such a crazy rate. We are wasting 10 million tons of fish a year, and we are harvesting between 1 and 2.7 trillion fish out of the ocean every year. And David Attenborough recently said in his documentary that 90% of the world's fish have been caught, and at the current rate, we're 26 years away from not having any seafood left at all. I'll just quickly also say what's happened at the greenhouse in the last week. So we did our dinners this week, which has been really good. And what's most exciting for me is that every day I walk in and Matt and Joe have created something new. It's really incredibly exciting at the moment because now that the build is behind us and all the issues are behind us, we're able to really start to explore different elements, different ideas, different foods. And so one of the things that people have been most interested in is our aquaponics system. And I couldn't have done it without this guy, Chris. Yep. So Chris and I grew up in the same, pretty much almost on the same street. Yeah. My brother lives on Wiseman Road in Sylvan. Yep. And Chris has spent his life doing sustainable landscaping and natural pools, and has done our swimming pool at home, which is in a shipping container that the kids love. But yeah, Chris has helped us with developing the systems here that allow us to have so many different things going on. And so today we're going to discuss the future, because I think that there's an incredible potential for urban aquaponics systems to provide us with fish. We don't need to be reliant on fish from the ocean. And not only that, they provide valuable nutrients for us to then use to grow plants, as you'll see here. Yeah. So do you want to just explain how you got interested and excited in this?
All right. Well, so my business is Full Potential Landscapes, and it was all about how many different ways can you use your house and property to its full potential. So started with, basically it's permaculture and seeing, how can we have all these closed loop systems. And then just over time discovering, little things and innovating, and then I stumbled across aquaponics. And I thought, it was such a great way for people to have their own fresh fish and produce as well. So over time, I ended up doing a course, and from there built my own one, and then learnt lots of lessons along the way. So all about testing the water and doing the right things, doing the wrong things, and that's if anyone goes on this journey, that'll be part of it. And then aquaponics is one of the the key things that I thought was really important. They do take a little bit of work, as in testing and looking after it and learning. But once you've got it sussed, you're right. And it's a great thing to have. In every garden and household could basically have it. So I think it's a
one of the things that I love, like the whole inspiration for this house, is that you're living in an ecosystem. And one thing that I've really enjoyed is every morning when I get here, I go up the steps, you can smell, especially the yabbies and this is where the barramundi are. So we've got two systems. We've got one on the ground floor and one on the top floor. We had barramundi on the top floor, but the tank was fluctuating in temperature too much because it gets really hot during the day, gets really cold at night. So we decided to have it downstairs where it's much more stable in temperature. But I love that you walk upstairs, and as you walk up, you can actually smell whether it's in balance or not. You just learn how things are out. So already before you get there, if there's something not quite right.
For sure.
And that's really what this building is about. Like, I love the idea that we live in an ecosystem, and it's like walking through a rainforest, or when you're walking past a creek or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And the whole you can, and even just the sound of running water in the building, and having live fish and eating fresh produce is unreal. So
yeah, what we've done here is we're using solar power to run the pumps during the day. We're running off a battery now. We are going into a period where there's an oversupply of power during the day. It's already happening in Australia, New South Wales. It's happening all the time that we're generating too much electricity during the day. So there's a real, I suppose you could say 25, 30 years ago, it didn't really make that much sense, because why would you use electricity to run a system like this? It makes a lot of sense now, because you're basically using free energy from the sun to grow fish. And yeah, the benefits are massive, because as with barramundi, which is one of the world's best fish to grow in an urban location, we've worked with Infinity Barramundi, who are a company based in Werribee, and their mission and goal is to be the world's supplier to urban aquaponic systems. They already supply, I believe, 70% of the world's barramundi.
Yep, that's right.
And they've developed golden barramundi, which in the wild only occur 1 in 8 million. They've spent the last 20 years breeding up this incredible fish stocks to actually be breeding golden barramundi, which is the flesh is whiter, it's cleaner eating, I suppose, and yeah, and it's a beautiful fish to have. So what's happening now is, of course, we're falling in love with these fish so much that we don't want to eat them anymore. But if you come a little bit closer, you can see how this works. So we've actually just had this tank made. They're made in Geelong, and I think it holds about 1,800 litres of water. You could potentially have a lot more fish in here. We have fish food that's made up of crickets and other elements the fish absolutely love. You can see these. I've been playing around with them, so they're not that keen. Yeah, they don't believe me anymore. There you go. But what's incredible about this is that they provide the nutrients that then make the plants grow really well. So we've got cucumbers here, but what you'll see upstairs in a minute is that like any ecosystem, we're reliant on the fish to grow the food. It's really interesting. I've been pulling all the yellow leaves off the cucumbers, and the other day, if you look here at these crickets, they've got an overgrown zucchini at the moment. They've got some wheatgrass that we've got left. They pretty much polished off one of the leaves in about 10 minutes. It's just completely devoured. I went, where's the leaf gone? So that's what happens in nature. One thing becomes a food source for another. So I want to just explain, if you can just explain this system. It might be best to actually walk upstairs and see how this
I might even tell people what aquaponics actually is first.
Yep.
So aquaponics is a mixture of aquaculture and hydroponics. So the aquaculture with fish, in aquaculture, like in big fish farms, they use a hell of a lot of water. And the reason is because the water doesn't get filtered, where in aquaponics, the plants filter the water that go back to the fish. So that cycle, that closed loop system, the water is actually always being reused. So you lose a little bit of water, but that's only evaporation and what the plants take up. Hydroponics, again, the same sort of thing. They put chemicals in there, and then the water flushes through, and whatever chemicals are left in the water, and they have to dump that water, they have to bring in a lot. So the beautiful thing about aquaponics is it doesn't use anywhere near as much water as aquaculture or hydroponics. So so basically what happens is the nitrogen cycle. So the water comes from the fish tank. So the fish tank is basically, so what happens is the fish produce ammonia, and then the ammonia gets pumped, the water gets pumped up into the grow bed or media bed, and then the nitrite, the bacteria in the media bed turn it into nitrate, and then that gets turned into plant food, and then that clean water then goes back to the fish. So that's your closed loop system.
And you can't just do this, get pebbles and do it straight away. You've got to actually wait for the bacteria and the microflora in that bed to get going. So a lot of people make the mistake of introducing fish too soon, or so you've got to wait for the biology to...
Correct. So the bacteria are the most important thing in the whole system. And when we go upstairs, we'll show you later on the media bed and different types of media. And the best type of media is these clay balls that we'll show you up the top.
Yeah.
And it's all about surface area. And later on, we'll also show you the size of the grow beds and square metre to how many fish. Because if things are out of balance, like in nature, if you have too many fish in an area, then it basically can't take the ammonia out of the water, and the closed loop system fails. So everything's got to be balanced, like in nature. Can't be overpopulated. But when we go up, we'll show you the grow bed.
Yeah, maybe let's walk up and have a look at how
Cool.
the whole system works. So it sounds like a waterfall.
Yeah. Here we go.
So you can see here is one of the beautiful blue, amazing coloured blue yabbies. And they're growing so fast. And we've actually got babies as well, so we know that the system is behaving really well. Again, fallen in love with these, they're like our pets, so every morning the first thing we do is go up and see how they are, and we actually lost a yabby this morning.
Yeah.
It could have been because of a fight, but yeah, since we've introduced a whole bunch of broken terracotta pots, they seem to be really happy now. We also lost some mussels, so we've got freshwater mussels in here and trout in this top tank. So Chris, maybe you want to explain how this system works. So this is these are IBCs.
Yep.
These vessels are actually ubiquitously used all over the world for transporting oil, so you can get food grade ones.
Yep.
That are used for olive oil and vinegar and all sorts of different things. They're also used for chemicals, so you've got to be careful that you actually ask for food grade barrels. They're not expensive, they're 70, 80 bucks each, and they're just brilliant because they've got taps and it's really easy to work out the volumes because they've got levels on there as well. You can see here 1,000 litres, 800 litres. So when you're cutting them up and modifying them, they're really easy to work with.
Yeah. I'll let you put him back in. Yeah. Yeah. So in the system, you can add any aquatic species into an aquaponics system if you like. They just have to live harmoniously. So in here we have freshwater mussels in the tank. They actually help to filter the water as well. And we'll tell you a little about the freshwater mussels later on. There you go. Some beautiful ones there. Yep.
I'm a bit careful in here because we've got a pregnant yabby in here that might want to have a bit of a...
Have a go.
Have a go, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I'll run you through the components actually of the aquaponics. So what you see here on the end is a fish tank. In this is a chop and flip style aquaponics. So basically the IBC container, the key elements are a fish tank, and then inside the fish tank we have an overflow point. Another key thing I should really say before we go any further is there's only one pump running the whole thing. So you've got your fish tank, then your media beds up the top. So they're 300 mil deep. You've got the media bed with these clay balls in there. So you've got two of those.
That's the clay balls that Chris was talking about
earlier. And the great thing about these clay balls and why there's a pro and a con about them. The pro is that they have lots of surface area. So a normal stone only has the outside surface area, where this clay ball has these little bits, so they go inside, and that's all areas for the bacteria to grow and to breed.
So it's a bit like a sponge.
Bit like a sponge, correct? Yeah. Now the negative to it is they're actually a little bit expensive, but once you've got them, you can actually wash it, and over time they'll pay themselves off. But the initial sort of outlay for using clay balls is a little bit of an outlay, but they are the best surface area for the bacteria. You can use other things like scoria, which is a lot cheaper, pebbles and clay and other rocks like that, but that's the best by far. We'll go back to it. So in this system we've got 2 grow beds. The media bed or the grow bed actually determines how many fish you can have in the system. So a rule of thumb with this size, so for every square metre you can have 5 kilos of fish. Why that is there's enough bacteria in there to break down the fish waste and to clean the water basically back for the fish. So in here we could have 10 kilos of fish comfortably. You could go a little bit more than that, but then you really have to be careful how much food you put in by how much ammonia the food and the fish waste create. So we've got the 2 grow beds, we've got the water tank. So down in the bottom we've got this sump pump, and we've actually doubled that up as where the yabbies live. You'll notice in there too, Joe created these beautiful terracotta pots that are broken in half as the yabbies' homes. So a really important thing is that yabbies actually have a place to hide, because yabbies are very territorial, and if they've got nowhere to hide, they're just going to see each other and fight and basically take each other's nippers off and things like that. So yeah, that's one there. Nice and simple, just a broken pot that's now a little yabby house. Yeah. And
it's always the same ones, seems to be in the same, like they have a home.
They have their own area, own territory.
So you've just got to, be considerate as well that you put the pot in the same spot, otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. So if you can come and have a look here. So what we have is I'll run you through how it's all set up. So in the bottom sump pump, we have these 2 sumps connected together. Then we have one small pump in there, a 2,000 litre per hour pump. What that does is that pumps water up and runs up to where those 2 valves are. So that dumps water continuously into the fish tank, continuously into both grow beds. Then we've got these ball valves on there so we can adjust the flow, which is really important. That water then fills up inside of, I don't know if you can see in there where the auto siphon is, where Yoast is.
So this is the auto siphon.
Yeah, you want to even pull that out and we can sort of, yeah.
It's that simple.
It's that simple, yeah. It's simple, but it's also, we've had to do a few innovations on it to get it running perfectly. So what you see inside of there's that there is the auto siphon, which goes from 32 mil down to 25. And the reason why that's critical is it actually creates a vortex inside of there like in a bathtub. When the water starts going down there, it starts spinning. And what happens is this is all airtight, so it actually locks like that and starts draining the water down and up into the auto siphon. So believe it or not, the water will actually be draining down, and it's the water level's down here, but it'll be going up that pipe and then down that there.
And that's important because if this is continuously filled with water, these plants will all die.
Correct.
So they're relying on running out of water and getting immersed in water again. Otherwise, all the bacteria will die and everything will become acidic.
Yeah, it'll be acidic and it'll be anaerobic as well. And so we basically want that water to dump out. So another little thing Yoast and I were working on at his place, we were sitting there and the auto siphon wasn't breaking. So it was locked and the water was doing its magical thing where it was running up a tube and then down the auto siphon, but it wasn't stopping. We couldn't get it to break. So what we did was put this snorkel on and this little cup. And what that does is when the water level goes up, the cup sinks, but when the water level goes down and goes up these pipes, the water actually sucks that tube, that cup up and breaks it off. It sounds a little bit technical, but when you understand it, it's actually really simple. And by doing it this way, you only need one pump. We actually looked at, can we simplify it in some way, but we actually made it more complicated. And we went back to the original way of doing it like this. So yeah, so that's the auto siphon setup and this little snorkel. You don't have to do it like this, but we found that this is the best way that the siphon breaks and yeah. Now, another key thing, if you set one of these up at home, the siphon will break. So the most important thing is the amount of flow coming into the system. So having these valves here, you can actually adjust. If there's too much water coming in, the siphon won't break. And if there's not enough water coming in, the actual auto siphon won't start because it just falls down that pipe. Yeah, so all these little things we've learnt along the way. Still learning every day, continuously learning. But yeah, and you can see the produce that we're getting now.
It's really interesting. Like, so what we've planted here are all bitter greens. We're quite obsessed with the idea of like this are chicories and like dandelion type things, radicchio. And what's really interesting is some of the studies that have been done that greens grown this way can be up to 10 times more nutrient dense than greens grown normally. And that makes sense, of course, because you've got these fish providing all these nutrients that then, so it's great. And a lot of these leaves, obviously, I've just taken these off. Well, these will go straight to the crickets. So, although that's a byproduct, and if it's not crickets, it can go into a biodigester and create methane and become nutrients again for the next plant. So, as you can imagine, in a project like this, you've got so much byproduct. It's estimated that for every kilo of food that we eat, there's 2 kilos of byproduct. That's the roots. Let's say in rhubarb, it could be the leaf when you're only using the stalk, or with potatoes, it's the foliage that you can't eat, but that foliage can, be a great food source for another, whether it's mealworms or actually we've even got mealworms eating styrofoam here at the moment.
Crazy, yeah.
So yeah, it's really important for me that people understand that this can be a complete closed loop.
Yeah. Another good point that I wanted to make is every gardener, I do talks and shows and stuff sometimes, and one of the questions everyone always asks me is how do I deal with weeds and what can I use that's organic to reduce weeds. In aquaponics, because you're using the media bed and there's no other things like soil that has the weed seed in there, you basically don't get any weeds in there. And a good thing, if you have lettuce and they go to seed and those seeds will fall in there, they will automatically germinate and you'll have continuous lettuce that will still grow.
Well, here you can see that's watercress. That's from a seed that's fallen from the watercress that we had here. So, yeah, self-pollinating and self-germinating. Yeah. Watercress is the most nutrient-dense plant in the world. There you go.
Yeah. So that's another great point. Look, I think every home should have aquaponics, but it would really reduce the amount of the amount of strain on the land and that sort of thing. And there's nothing like growing your own food and actually cooking it and producing your own food. So it'd be great if everyone could have. It doesn't have to be the extreme of this. You could do a tiny little bucket system even.
A
bathtub. Yeah. So So
and if you've got kids, kids are fascinated with this project. We get lots of kids through. By far the most exciting object in this whole building is this. Yeah. Kids are they can spend hours up here. So if you do have kids and you want to get them interested into ecosystems and food production and growing your own food, this is like a definite, and it's not that expensive. Most toys would cost more than setting a system like this up. So if you wanted to, or the money that you might have put into a holiday, you could put into this, and it'll keep the kids occupied for hours and hours.
Yeah, my kids love it. Before the system came in here, we had the system set up, and My oldest Harrison was in there, and every day coming out, and we'll chucking food in there and asking about the yabbies and
Joe, what?
yeah.
Oh yeah. So we do get a lot of people walking in, and this lady, we were actually closed, and I said, I'm really sorry, we're closed. And she said, I just wanted to know how your aquaponics system is going. And she said, I've had an aquaponics system for over 10 years, and I live in Northcote, and I've got a tiny little place in Northcote, and I produce about 100 to 150 trout every year.
That's insane, isn't it? Yeah.
So this is what you would classify as a 3,000 litre system, I suppose you could say. She's got a 5,000 litre system. And she said, can I just give you advice? Don't give up. It took her 2 to 3 years to get it right. And she said that system provides enough nutrients for all the cucumbers, tomatoes, and lettuces that she grows as well. So, yeah, this is nothing new. There's millions of people all over the world that are doing this. And the Chinese have been doing it for 3,000 years. So that's how long this form of agriculture goes on. And then, as we know, like fish systems in Australia have now, there's a UNESCO site down near the lakes, down near Warrnambool that has just been certified as a very special place, and that has at least 60,000 years of management, water management by First Nation people. So this is a very proven, very old method. We're just using modern materials that would otherwise not be used or go to waste.
And recycled materials,
yeah.
There's actually skyscrapers in China where they have like aquaponic systems set up the whole way. So, you think about it, there would be this little footprint where a farm, could be. And then with this sense, they've got, a skyscraper full of different levels. They're always continuous. So, different things are always producing. So you can use one little bit of land to its full potential in that sort of system. Yeah, so, but they're massive.
I did a bit of a crazy project in 2008 for Lorenz Grollo, who owns the Rialto Tower.
Yeah.
And we worked out there's 1.5 hectares of surface of glass facing north and northeast and northwest.
Yep.
And they, about 500,000 litres of water gets expelled from that building every day.
Yep.
And a lot of that is obviously just from washing hands or goes down the drain. So a lot of that water is actually quite easy to filter and clean.
Yep.
And we worked out that we could harvest 70 kilos of tomatoes from each square metre of glass surface area. So if we put a second skin on the outside, like a vertical glass house.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a system like this?
Yeah.
On there? So you could grow so much food on that one building.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? Yeah.
So,
I suppose another good point to make as well, this system is really good for leafy greens and tomatoes and things that grow above the surface. You don't want to be planting things like potatoes and things that are below and root things. So yeah, leafy greens, you can have the best tomatoes growing in here.
Cucumbers do.
Cucumbers, really well. Things like that. Anything that's above the surface is. And we've also actually got some, if you come up here, we've got some other, this here is an Aboriginal medicine. So it's an indigenous plant that Aboriginal traditional people have used for arthritis. So they say if you have 2 of these leaves a day, that will help reduce, the pain from arthritis. So there's lots of different things that have been used for, generations that are really cool to have in there, and medicines as well. So it's not just edible.
So that's freshwater celery. It's also an indigenous plant to Australia, and we've actually used that here on the menu in broth and as a garnish as well. So I've just actually pulled it out and split them up and planted some more. So you can see that's a cutting.
And another great thing is with the mussels, the freshwater mussels. So freshwater mussels, if they've got the right fish host, they'll release their their eggs basically, and they will attach into the fish gills, and then they'll grow in the fish gills, and then release into the water when they're right. But they have to have the right host. So certain freshwater mussels from certain areas will only happen with indigenous fish to that area, which is really important. That's sort of why in a lot of our waterways where we're seeing mussel numbers decline, because there's things like carp and all these other species that are being introduced. that are really reducing their numbers, which is, yeah, it's fascinating. And the freshwater mussels, how much do they?
Well, when we first got them, we were shocked because we found quite a few dead ones, like 3 or 4 dead ones in the first sort of week.
Yeah.
And then we realised that the system had been completely, like the water was crystal clear, and it turns out that we didn't have enough fish, we didn't have enough yabbies, we didn't have enough plants growing. We needed more biology because each mussel filters about 250 litres of water a day. So we had 20 mussels in here, so they were filtering,
The water was too clean. There was no food, no nutrients for them.
So we added more yabbies, we added more fish, and, got more plants going.
Yeah. The system now is, there was a few casualties at the start and that sort of thing, which is all part of it. Anyone that embarks on aquaponics is going to experience that. So, you're gonna feel bad. There's going to be all these emotions, but if you stick at it and learn in time, and the system balances, you're going to really enjoy it and really, really love it. But yeah, it's all about having everything balanced. Like we thought that everything was so perfect because the water was so clear, and then things started dying and we couldn't understand why. And then we learnt research, and then figured out exactly what Yost was saying. And now the system is absolutely perfect. The rainbow trout in there, they're all so happy. So it was just a few little learning experiences, but
and plus, we really thought this is the highest tank, so it's better to have the trout on the ground floor and the barramundi up here. But because this is actually quite exposed and it can get quite cold at night, the water got too cold, so the barramundi didn't like the fluctuating temperatures. So we've actually now got the barramundi in the house, so to speak, in a more insulated, protected space, next to the heat pump. So, if we do need to heat the water, we've got plenty of energy and excess water to heat that water up if we need to. But at the moment, it's well and truly, they're doing really well.
Yeah, very good.
So I hope that has inspired someone to start their own aquaponics system and be less reliant. I think the example that I often use are whales. In 1976, apparently 300 whales were counted that went past Byron Bay, and that's when they stopped the whaling station or closed the whaling station in Byron Bay. And the last year, 36,000 whales went past on their migration up to the Great Barrier Reef to give birth. And I just think that if we give the ocean a break and find alternative means, we've got so much waste that we currently are putting into landfill that could be great, make great feed for insects, that could then be great feed for aquaponics systems. We generate more than enough waste to totally radically transform our food system so we can grow food where we live. If the 1 million plus houses in Australia had an aquaponics system each, we could be well and truly growing enough fish to feed ourselves. And we had smoked trout today that was smoked with fresh rosemary, and oh my god, best fish I've ever eaten. So see you next week. Appreciate everyone's interest.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Good on you. Yeah, thanks.